Welcome back to the Redraft Show, brought to you by the FFD Fantasy and sponsored by ProfitX. And today we're here to talk through Week 7 waivers. So before we get into it, let's highlight a couple of the hits we had. I told you, go ahead and roster Bam Knight. He was only 7% rostered going into the week. He started, handled 51% of the snaps. Sam Darnold, 36% rostered. Hey, put up a great week. I mean, shout out to JSN and AJ Barner. And Cooper Kupp scored a touchdown too. And then Kendrick Bourne, he's had back-to-back 100-yard games, did not have had one career 100-yard game before that, but that's why you're here. So today, let's get into the pickups of the week. And we're going to start off with a guy that we told you to pick up last week, but I said that I would look elsewhere. But now we have no choice but to look at Kimani Vidal. So Kimani Vidal comes in. They're taking on the Colts, and he plays for the Chargers. I almost said the Chargers, but they're taking on the Colts. He's 45% rostered. He played 67% of the snaps, and that turned into 18 carries for 124 yards. So go check your waiver wires to make sure if somebody let it slip through the cracks and Kimani Vidal is still available, he needs to be on your roster ASAP. We also have, it's a little light at running back. I'm not going to lie to you. Most of the action is going to come with the post-waiver stashes, but these are a few guys that you need to be mindful of. So we've got Kimani Vidal, like I said, taking on the Colts. Next, we've got Kendre Miller. So Kendre Miller taking on the Bears, who are one of the biggest run funnel defenses. Now, we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, Monday Night Football has to unfold, and we'll see if their defense getting TJ Edwards back is going to make a difference. Going to make a difference in the way that they stop the run. Currently, they allow the most yards per carry on zone concepts, and Washington averages the second most yards per carry on zone concepts. And that Bill Krosky-Merritt, our personal hero, averages 7.45 yards per carry. So that seems to bode well for Alvin Kamara and Kendre Miller next week taking on the Bears. So Kendre Miller, 39% rostered. This is the first single-digit carry game he's had in the last couple of weeks, and we're getting the trade rumors floating around. I know Mickey Loomis came out and said that he does not plan on trading Alvin Kamara after Alvin Kamara said he wants to finish as a Saint, but business is business, and if somebody comes calling with a second or a day 2 pick, second or a third round pick, Alvin Kamara is going to be wherever that second and third round pick came from. So we can move on to Bam Knight, who we told you to roster last week. Now he's 19% rostered. He played 50% of the snaps, and he started the game. It's going to be a heavy timeshare with Michael Carter until Trey Benson returns. We've got 2 more games of no Trey Benson at minimum. So Bam Knight taking on the Green Bay Packers, 19% rostered, 50% of the snaps. Guys, it's not sexy, but if you're at a point where you're starting Bam Knight, if you're at a point where this is actionable advice to you, let's get Bam Knight in our lineups and stop messing around. And then, of course, I'm contractually obliged to mention Marshawn Lloyd. Look, they didn't activate him from IR, but just if you have an IR spot and you haven't stashed him, just do so now. They're giving other backs carries, but Josh Jacobs is awesome, so he's going to take the lion's share, but this could be a better best ball play. He has juice. I'm obligated to say that. And then some guys that I would recommend stashing post waivers would be Jarquez Hunter. Okay, he's 0% rostered. We got an injury to Blake Corum, but I'm not really sure what that is. And they're playing across the pond next week, so you might want to just stash Jarquez Hunter. I wouldn't burn waiver priority, but I would be interested in stashing Jarquez Hunter. So Jaden Blue, Brashard Smith, and Naheem Hines, who is currently with the Los Angeles Chargers, are post-waiver stashes for really deep leagues. But let's move on to the wide receiver position. And we've got a ton of goodness here this week because, there's just action here. So last week we told you about Kendrick Bourne. We told you to go get Ryan Flournoy. This week we're telling you to go grab Josh Downs. So Josh Downs, 49% roster. They're taking on the Chargers. He's had back-to-back games with at least 7 targets. Now he did, I believe, pull a hamstring in the preseason, so that might have limited his involvement a little bit. Alec Pierce appears to have taken a step forward. That's another name that you should be hunting for on your waiver wire. He's going to be the big play threat in this offense. Josh Downs, against the Chargers would be the better play, though, just because they do play a lot of too high and they don't give up a lot of big plays. So the underneath would probably be much more open. Again, Josh Downs, back-to-back targets, back-to-back weeks with at least 7 targets. So let's move on to our next wide receiver, and that's going to be Alec Ayomanor taking on the New England Patriots. Now, the Titans did just fire Brian Callahan today, so we're looking at a situation where everything's kind of up in flux. The injury to Ridley is the actionable advice here. He's only 47% roster. He had 3 catches for, I believe, 27 yards. So it's not been great, but this offense is one of the worst offenses that we've ever seen. So if you're looking here, you might want to look elsewhere, but also it could get better if he's the primary target in the offense. He just barely trails Calvin Ridley in first read targets. Now, this is a deeper league stash. Or a deeper league pickup and more of a post waiver stash. But I do think that this week he will have some top 36 and he'll be in my top 36 rankings wise because I do believe that he's going to perform. And that guy, not Alec Ayomanor, but our next name, Tez Johnson, 6th round rookie out of Tampa Bay, taking on the Detroit Lions, who will be without Brian Branch, the pugilist specialist. So he played 72% of the snaps. He's currently only 4% rostered. He had the moment of the week, the touchdown celebration of the weekend, where he did like an Olympic level flip after scoring on a bomb touchdown from Baker Mayfield. So injuries to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and now Emeka Egbuka thrust us into a position where we're looking for Tampa Bay pass catchers. And I'm going to give you a couple names to follow along with there. Next, we have Jordan Whittington versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's currently only 2% rostered. Now, the thing that we're being mindful of is that ankle injury to Puka. And when Jordan Whittington has been called upon, Sean McVay trusts him to operate. So this could be a big time pickup if there's significant damage to Puka or he's going to miss a significant amount of time. They're traveling across the pond, as I alluded to earlier, to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so here's some post-waiver stashes for you guys that you might just, hey, let's hang out and see what happens this week. Lil Jordan Humphrey versus the Denver Broncos, Ryan Flournoy versus the Commanders, Jalen Hyatt versus the aforementioned Broncos, wide receiver for the New York Giants, if you are not familiar, and Cameron Johnson, fellow Tampa Bay wide receiver, to Tez Johnson for the taking on the Detroit Lions. So let's move on to the tight end position. There's a little juice here this week. Mostly because I feel like I'm cheating telling you to pick up Harold Fannin Jr. off of waivers, but he's only 50% rostered. So I need to tell you to go pick up Harold Fannin Jr. versus the Dolphins. So he came off of 70. He's played 70% of the snaps and at least 60% of the snaps in every single game. He had a career high 10 targets this week. David Njoku is now, I believe, suffered a knee injury on Sunday, and he tied his career high with 7 receptions. So Harold Fannin Jr., the Fannin is one of my favorite tight end plays and pickups of the week. Check your rosters to make sure, check your leagues, waiver wires to make sure that he is available or, everybody's asleep. You need to be awake.
What's good? You know the phrase, the house always wins? Well, not anymore with our new sponsor, Profit X. Profit X, America's #1 sports prediction market, is a peer-to-peer sports prediction market where users play against each other instead of a sports book versus the house. You almost always get the best price in any spread, money line, total, and player prop since you're playing against other people rather than the book. It looks just like a sports book, but with way better odds. So what are you waiting for? Go download the app and use promo code FFD to claim up to $200 in profit cash on all the plays you use in the first 30 days of playing on site. Link in the description. Now, let's look at that Thursday night game, because it's Monday right now when we're making this. So we don't have a lot of prop options, which is really where we've been making our bread and butter. But we got the Cincinnati Bengals at home versus the Steelers on a Thursday night. Last Thursday, we saw the Giants take care of business at home versus Philly. So let's ride that train on the home underdog on the short week, taking a little bit of that Joe Flacco magic and getting us a little dub here. Cincinnati Bengals +4 this week on your Monday night pick here. Peace.
Moving on to Michael Mayer, currently only 5% rostered. They're taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't expect big things, but anytime a tight end plays 92% of the snaps and gets 7 targets, that's something that we need to be mindful of. He did have 5 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown. So that's something, it's just, we got the bye week fill-ins. We're going to be without Mandrews. We're going to be without Kincaid. Maybe, just maybe, this could be of use to you. And then Cade Otton versus the Lions. So back-to-back weeks with at least 5 targets and 50 yards. The Bucs are absolutely decimated by injury right now. He's only 12% rostered. You could do much worse in terms of a fill-in for Cade Otton. And then Chigga Okonkwo taking on the Patriots. I know this is gross. He's only 20% rostered. This Calvin Ridley injury is just kind of shotgun, scatter shot. Take what you can get and roll with it. So Chigga Okonkwo, 20% rostered, 6 targets. He's more involved in the offense. He's going to be more involved with Ridley out. And I think that that's something that we have to take heed of, because he's one of the most athletic tight ends in the league. If he's going to get six targets and 6 receptions, then that's something we need to pay attention to. And last but not least, A.J. Barner, currently 38% rostered, taking on the Houston Texans, who are coming off a bye. He's had at least 50 yards in back-to-back games. It seems as though Sam Darnold and he are developing a sort of rapport, which stinks from the perspective of people who believe in Elijah Arroyo. But A.J. Barner is a real-life good tight end that can block and catch passes, and he's pretty athletic. He's been a red zone monster. So, if you need a fill-in for Mark Andrews or Dalton Kincaid in week 7, this could be your guy. So check that out. And then last, let's get to some QB streaming options this week. Okay. So we've got Trevor Lawrence. He's currently only 39% rostered. He's taking on the Los Angeles Rams. He's a QB5 and QB11 in back-to-back weeks. You could do much worse if you're going to be without Josh Allen and Lamar. You're already without Lamar. But if you're going to be without Josh Allen, this could be a play for you. Trevor Lawrence taking on the Rams over across the pond. I've said that now 4 times this episode. That's weird. Now, Bryce Young, 26% rostered versus the Jets. He's had 5 touchdowns combined in the last 2 weeks, and apparently he turns into prime Tom Brady after throwing an interception. So this is another bad defense for him to take advantage of. I'm anxious to see how this works out. The Panthers do play really well at home, so I'm interested to see if this is sticky. So, and then Aaron Rodgers at the Bengals. He's 25% rostered. He's got multiple touchdown passes in 3 of 5 games this season. I don't believe in them, but I do believe that the Bengals defense is absolute dog water. So you could do worse than Aaron Rodgers if you're looking for a streamer this week. And then I would recommend checking your waiver wires for Brock Purdy. He was dropped in a couple leagues that I'm in, but he's 67% rostered. And I do believe that once he comes back, you see what Mac Jones is doing. And I know it's not a transient property, but Brock Purdy's really good. I think as soon as he gets back in the lineup, they're going to need him to play at a really high level and score points at a high clip. So this could be, one of the ceiling outcome seasons like 2023 was for Brock Purdy. Last but not least, this is gross. This is really only kind of an absolute desperation play if somebody like pulls a hamstring or you pick up one of these guys and they get hurt, something like that. But JJ McCarthy, if he's going to be in the lineup, you can do it. I don't think that he's as bad as he played against the Falcons on national TV. And that's like the last thing that we saw. And he's somewhere in between that 4th quarter of week 1 of the Bears game and what he put on tape against the Falcons the following week. So I do think that if you're absolutely the most desperate, really, this is just kind of a stash and see what happens, because Kevin O'Connell's track record has been so clean with quarterbacks. But that's something that you just need to be mindful, because if he's had the time off and we saw the sabbatical that Bryce Young took absolutely help him take a leap forward. Well, everything in the Vikings offense is just primed and ready for a guy to step in. I don't know, cough, cough, Sam Darnold, cough, cough, Kirk Cousins, and thrive in these scenarios. So again, this is a stash. You can just see how it plays out, because if it hits, it's going to hit at like an elite level. So those are your plays. Those are pickups for this week, man. I wanted to get this out to you and, let you guys know that this is, we're out here just plugging along. If you got ravaged by injury for one of the Bucs wide receivers, whoever they have left, or you're scrambling after trying to figure out what to do with Puka, or you don't know what to do with Zay Flowers on bye week this week, or, Dalton Kincaid has you, the Dalton Kincaid bye week's got you dizzy. We got you. So if you made it this far, thank you for liking, downloading, commenting, subscribing. If you haven't, please go follow our sister channel, brother channel. I don't know what to call that shit, but we do have in the FF Dynasty channel that you need to follow. If you haven't, follow me on Twitter X at Chev90. The link tree with everything that I'm working on is there. And then last but not least, make sure you download the League Champ app in the App Store and Google Play Store. So, as I always leave you, there's ball watchers and there's ball knowers. I'll see you in the running back rankings episode. Peace.